Imagine an aerodynamically controlled cruise missile that could fly for unlimited time at the speed of 20 Mach before it hits its target with a nuclear tipped payload at will. No missile defense system can stop such a missile. Nuclear powered hypersonic missile tipped with nuclear warhead that can fly circuitous routes for weeks, months, or even years before hitting its target. Isn't it crazy thing? Enemy would keep guessing about the target. Well, I will tell you about the most secret nuclear missiles that have nuclear propulsion system on board. Let's talk about the science and technology behind such crazy missiles in the video. We will also get the Indian defense and security experts' opinion on developing such weapons. Please watch full video to get a hang of it. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe and press bell icon to get notified of new videos. Without any further ado, let's get started. Russia, US and China have developed hypersonic weapons, but secrets of only Russian nuclear-propelled missiles armed with nuclear warhead are out in public domain. Besides Russia, US and China also appear to have made substantial progress in developing nuclear-powered missiles. Never confirmed officially, these three nations may have well overcome the key obstacles in developing nuclear-armed missiles, having on-board miniaturized nuclear reactor. One of the major key hurdles is protecting hypersonic craft from savage frictional heating, especially when it re-enters Earth's atmosphere.
Nuclear-powered missile program that is active today is Russia's Hypersonic cruise missile program that has a nuclear reactor, miniature reactor inside it. It's supposed to drive it. That's the power plant in it, and it has unlimited range, obviously, because it doesn't have to refuel or anything of the kind, and it can endlessly keep moving before it's called in to hit a target.
Indo-Russian joint venture cruise missile BrahMos, powered with turbojet engine, could fly at the speed of 3,704 km per hour. It can be guided or steered through a desired path and can even fly through a window for that matter. But a nuclear Ramjet engine powered missiles, powered with a nuclear reactor, can fly at a speed of 24,646 km per hour, that is at the speed of 20 Mach, the speed of sound. This far exceeds the supersonic ICBMs, which accelerates quickly to a high velocity, using the stage booster energy to get as high and as far as necessary to strike. This also slows it down once the fuel is exhausted. The missile will simply use gravity to strike its target. But in ICBM, the biggest drawback is that they arc along a predictable ballistic path like a bullet. They lack the element of surprise. In contrast, hypersonic weapons such as China's Wave Rider or Russia's 9M730 Hypersonic or USA's CGHB missiles maneuver aerodynamically, enabling them to dodge defenses and keep an adversary guessing about the target. The best part is that such cruise missiles can fly low near ground undetected by low ground radars. There is no known missile defense system that can effectively challenge such a missile. Even if it is detected and shot down, a nuclear-powered missile will disperse a large amount of radioactive fuel, which can be lethal to any living being caught in the fallout. Fears of a new arms race between Russia and US have intensified after the collapse of Cold War era Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty in 2019. Building nuclear-powered cruise missiles require miniaturization of a nuclear reactor.
Nuclear-powered missile was initiated, the program was initiated by the United States in the 60s, and there the challenge was in miniaturizing the power plant such that you'd have a missile, as I said, with unlimited range that can be aloft almost all of its life. But they soon realized that it was a very impracticable weapon system. Why impracticable? Because First of all, there were technological problems to overcome. One of the main problems was to miniaturize the power plant. We have all seen the principle is the same that you find in a nuclear power plant that's very huge. They can produce 10,000 megawatts and so on. Now think of scaling it down to such an extent that the cost of it increases hundredfold, maybe even more. Because the more you miniaturize it, the more difficult it becomes, engineering-wise, and the more it costs you. So, and then think of such a nuclear power plant miniaturized to fit a missile container. It's an extraordinary technical challenge.
Today, nuclear reactors already power submarines and ships, and the smallest of these power space probes like NASA's Voyager. In August 2012, Voyager 1 made the historic entry into interstellar space, the region between stars, filled with material ejected by the death of nearby stars millions of years ago. Voyager 2 entered interstellar space on November 5, 2018, and scientists hope to learn more about this region. Both spacecraft are still sending scientific information about their surroundings through the Deep Space Network or DSN. The Curiosity rover, which has been exploring Mars since 2012, is also powered by a tiny nuclear reactor. At the most basic level, nuclear fuel is the source of heat. The heat is harnessed to produce electricity. In a coal-powered electricity plant, coal is burned to produce heat, which vaporizes water, which spins a turbine, which produces electricity. In a nuclear power plant, the fuel fissioning atoms get very hot and the heat is used to vaporize water. The vapors run a turbine that generates electricity, which is the exact same operating principle employed by coal power plants. Now let's look at the Ramjet engine, which has also been used in India's BrahMos missile. Ramjet engine is surprisingly simple in its design. Air is compressed by a nozzle, heated up tremendously by some sort of fuel, then exhausted out the rear at speed. As a Ramjet-powered missile flies, air is scooped into a tube, that is the Ramjet engine, and compressed via a cone-like structure. The pointy bit you see sticking out of the front of the missile above. Fuel is ignited over this compressed air, heating up the air tremendously. The hot air expands rapidly and is ejected out of the rear at incredible speeds. In a nuclear-powered aircraft, instead of burning fuel to generate heat, you layer a pile of hot fissioning nuclear fuel around the compressed air. Air enters the engine, gets compressed by the cone, gets heated up by nuclear energy. In 1957, the US Air Force and the US Atomic Energy Commission launched Project Pluto to build the supersonic low-altitude missile. The work started at the Lawrence Radiation Laboratory at Berkeley, California. The project, led by physicist Ted Markell, decided on a ramjet design. Powered into the sky atop a conventional rocket booster, the ramjet would compress incoming air in a uniquely shaped chamber, superheat it with a small nuclear reactor, and expel it as exhaust, propelling the missile almost 3 times faster than sound. Markell's lab went to work creating a 500 megawatt reactor that could operate at 2500 degree Fahrenheit. 4 years later, after much experimentation with different materials and careful assembly of 5 lakh small fuel rods, they had an engine. On May 14, 1961, they tested it at an 8 square mile facility in a desolate area of Nevada called Jackass Flats. But they won't be able to fly it. Instead, they used a flatbed rail car, but the test was deemed a complete success. Most importantly, the reactor did not catch fire, as some nervous Atomic Energy Commission officials had worried it would. Washington was already beginning to cool to the idea of a nuclear-powered cruise missile. The biggest reason, the missile's unshielded nuclear reactor would spew radiation along its flight path, potentially irradiating its own ground crew and everyone else between the launch pad and the target. The team tested a modified version of the engine once more in 1964, and the project was cancelled thereafter. The high fallout, both politically and literally, mean that nuclear-powered cruise missile remains a terrible idea. Experts believed if the missile was shot down, the fuel would overheat and you would have a 500 thermal megawatt reactor meltdown, about 1/6 the size of a large power reactor. But without any containment, also the lack of radiation shielding would make it difficult, if not impossible, for emergency responders to approach it. When it finally works, the missile is expected to fly at Mach 20 in dense air for weeks on end. The heat stress alone would rip a normal missile apart. Mechanical components will fuse, computers will melt. To ensure that the missile survives its trip, it will have to be built from exotic materials using experimental engineering and design techniques. The US abandoned its
Usefulness is limited to the one strike. Once they hit the target, their utility is over. Now, here you have a problem. It's not just a nuclear warhead you might have on the missile, but when the missile hits, it's also a nuclear reactor that blows up, that makes for more radiation damage all around. The other thing is, even in peacetime, there can be all kinds of accidents, concerning the power plant, the miniaturized power plant. And one of the great technological problems is how do you activate it? How do you activate the reactor? Because it cannot be activated before it's airborne and way past the crowded areas. Because if it flies over crowded areas and there's an accident, there'll be radiation fallout. People will die from radiation poisoning. So to avoid all that, the rocket takes off, the missile takes off, and then after it has cleared the crowded areas is when the reactor turns on, and then the missile is fired and powered by the nuclear reactor for its lifetime.
nuclear powered missile program several decades ago for this and several other reasons. Russia is also working on a nuclear powered doomsday submarine and portable nuclear reactors used as battlefield power source. India already has a nuclear powered ballistic submarine, Arihant. The reactor in America's Pluto program would presumably not have any lead or concrete radiation shielding because that would have made its missile too heavy. Such an unshielded missile would have generated a very intense flux of neutrons, so simply being in close proximity to it would have been lethal. The missile would have drawn air from the outside, heated it to a very high temperature and direct contact with nuclear fuel and then expelled the air. So fission products and radioactive particles would continuously be expelled into the environment. But reportedly, Russian scientists have overcome this challenge. The 9M730 Burbatsnik patrol missile with NATO reporting name SSC-X9 Skyfall is a startling success. However, the success also seen an accident during a test. On 9th August 2019, the Russian Nuclear Energy Agency Rosatom confirmed a release of radioactivity at the state's Central Navy testing range at Nyonska near Severodvinsk in northern Russia and stated it was linked to an accident involving the test of an isotope power source from a liquid-fueled rocket engine. 5 weapon scientists were killed in the accident. Bharat Karnad, Emeritus Professor in National Security Studies at the Center for Policy Research in New Delhi, is of the view that India should not fall for the mad arms race.
No, this is not a weapon system that India should aspire to. It's not a weapon system that makes any sense to anybody. The Russian Burevestnik missile is not really a success. It's still a sort of a technology demonstrator. And even there, it has by and large failed. There have been several accidents, people have been killed, there have been radiation accidents and so on. And therefore, the missile itself has no military utility. Honestly speaking, there's no military utility. And cost-wise, it's so prohibitive that any country in the right mind would not go in for it because of the kind of expenditure and resources that such a program will require. Richest countries in the world cannot afford it. And certainly a country like India won't. And fortunately, there are enough sensible people here in India to say that we do not want to go in for this kind of ridiculously expensive, minimally useful, even assuming there's any use at all, of such a missile.
However, I believe given the warfare entering into fourth dimension, the space, it is pertinent that India at least develop and perfect such technology. Shailesh Kumar, National Defense. Hope you like the video. If yes, just give a thumbs up, please share, and if you are new to my channel, kindly subscribe and press bell icon to get notified of my new videos. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.